Okay, I hope you're back. We want to proceed now. Hello? Hey, Fidi. Kabisa. Eh. Oh, pole sana, pole sana, pole. Ni hizi mahoma tu za sahi ama ni nini? Kwani ameadmitiwa ama? Ai, wapi? Ni sawa. Haya. Wewe utaniambia pole bwana. Okay. So we now proceed to the next topic. Okay, so good morning once more and welcome back. I hope you've taken some stretch. Time to proceed to the next topic. In this particular topic, I will be introducing HTML5 to you. HTML5, Introduction to HTML5. This is our topic number 2. So in this topic, we are going to cover basic principles of the markup languages. We're also going to look at HTML5 document structure, structuring text, block level and inline elements, and validating documents. So by the end of this chapter, you should be able to describe the basic principles of a markup language, fundamentals of the structure of HTML5, create a simple text-based web page using HTML5, and define validation. Define validation in the context of HTML pages. So HTML is a HyperText markup language. So this is the language that is used to write web pages. It describes the structure of the document. Structure is it determines what part is a heading, what part is a paragraph, what part is a list, what part is a table, etc. On the other hand, HTML does not specify the outlook of the page. This particular feature is supported by CSS, cascading style sheets. So this is a basic HTML page. This is a basic HTML page written in HTML5. So we can see, for example, that we have these symbols here, the greater than and the less than symbol, or you can call them the what's the other name? I'm forgetting. Okay. So generally, this is just an example of a HTML page. So we are going to look into all these tags and understand their meaning, because anything that is enclosed within this symbol is called a tag. It's called a tag. Oh, they're also called angle brackets. Angle brackets. So HTML tags are enclosed within angle. Is it angel or angle? Hey. It's supposed to be angle brackets. Angle, like that. Angle brackets. So they're called tags. Tags. So we're going to look into each one of them and understand the different parts and how to write them. Okay, so we begin by looking at what we call HTML elements. HTML elements. Now, HTML documents are made of a number of elements. A number of elements. Now, each HTML element consists of three things. Number one is what we call the opening tag. Number two is what we call the closing tag. In between, we have what we call the content. So this is the content. The content. Now, the tags tell the browser the meaning of the content. So, for example, here, the H1 tag is used to specify that this is going to be a heading 1, heading level 1. So this content is going to be bolded and it's going to have a larger font than the paragraph. So that is what the tags are used for. So in general, this is what we call an element, a HTML element. Please remember that the element is made up of a tag, opening tag, content, and closing tag. Now, elements can be nested. Elements can be nested. Nesting means placing elements inside other elements. Placing elements inside other elements. Now, for example, the previous example we had, where we were having a heading 1 saying welcome to HTML, we can still, this content here you can see, this content here, HTML, we can enclose it within this particular tag, this one, M. So M is used to emphasize text. Emphasizing text means it's gonna bolden it more. So really, what that means is that this content HTML is going to be bolder compared to welcome to. It's going to pop out more compared to welcome to because we've enclosed it within the M. So that is what we call nesting. Now, with M, with emphasize, really, it's not bolding by the way. With M element, it specifies emphasis, and the browsers often display this as italicized text. So it's going to be in italic and not really bold. It's going to be in italic. So that is what M does. I'm sorry I had said otherwise earlier. Okay, so it is important that we nest elements properly. So in this example, we have done a wrong nesting because in nesting, normally it is the first element that you're gonna open is the last one that you're gonna close. So you can see here we have nested wrongly because we have closed H1 before closing M, which is not correct. It's supposed to be the other way around. So really, you can think of it as first in, last out. So whatever you've opened first is the one that you're going to close last. So that's how you're supposed to nest. Otherwise, if you nest incorrectly, you might not then be following the web standards. Another important concept in HTML is the concept of empty elements. Empty elements. The concept of empty elements. Now, empty elements are elements that do not contain content. So don't forget these elements that do not contain content. Normally, they define standalone features on a web. They also do not have a closing tag. Empty elements always feature a slash before the closing angled bracket. Now here we have two examples, HR and BR. So normally HR is an element that is used to draw a horizontal line. So you're just gonna draw a horizontal line like this, for example. If you use it, it's gonna do that. That's what HR does, horizontal line. Otherwise, break is used to break content to the next line. Break content to the next line. Just like when you're typing on Word and you press enter. So the cursor will go to the next line. So break is used to force things to begin from the next line. So that is what break, BR, is used to do. So HTML elements, as you're going to realize, they're very easy to remember because they're English. They're simply English words, shortened English words. So HR for horizontal rule, BR for break. So these are examples of empty elements. Empty elements do not have content. They don't have an opening and closing tag. You simply close it by doing this / just before the closing angled bracket. So that's how we do it when it comes to empty elements. Another important concept is the concept of attributes in HTML. Attributes are used to give us extra information about elements. Now here we have an example of the anchor element, anchor element. You see we have an opening anchor element, opening. Then we have some content here. Then we have the closing anchor element. The anchor element is used to make this particular content a hyperlink. It's going to make this a link, what we call a hyperlink. Now, one of the attributes that is compulsory in an anchor element, really, just a moment. Okay, so one of the attributes that is compulsory in an anchor element is what we call the href, attribute. The href attribute. Now the href attribute is used to specify the URL that will be loaded when this hyperlink is clicked. So when you click on the World Wide Web Consortium, it's going to take you to www.w3.org. So that's what the href attribute is used to do. So this is what we call an attribute. An attribute is used to give us extra information about the element. For example, the href attribute in this example gives us the link that will be loaded when this hyperlink is clicked on. Now, attributes have the same structure. That is, attributes have a name. Then after the name, an equal to sign. Then after the equal to sign, you have the double colon and a value. So you can see href here is the name. Then we have the equal. Then we have the double colon there. Then we have some value. The value here is http / www.w3.org. So that is what we call an attribute in HTML. Some elements have more than one attribute. So one of that element is the image element, which is an empty element. So the image element, for example, can have the source attribute, src. The source attribute is used to specify the location of the image on your website. Then you have the alt attribute. The alt attribute is used to give an alternative text that will be loaded in case that particular photo fails to load, maybe because of very slow internet speeds. So here you can see that the img element, which is used for specifying an image, has the source attribute. The source attribute is here, that is specifying the location of the image, and the alt attribute here, that is specifying an alternative text that will be loaded. So this text, company logo, in case that particular image does not load. So This is important to just remember that an element can have more than one attribute. 0, 1, or more attributes. So this is the document structure. Let's have a look at the basic document structure. We call this basic structure, because it has key elements that must be in every page. Key elements that must be in every page. So let's have a look. So the first one, the first element is the doc type element. The doc type element is an empty element, meaning we don't have a closing tag. It's used to specify the version of HTML that you're using. If you type this element as it is, doc type HTML, then you're using HTML5. After that, we have what we call the root element, HTML, that encloses every other element. So you can see it's the first one to be opened after the doc type and the last one to be closed in our document. So that is called the root element because it encloses all the other elements in your web page. Then we have another section, the head element. So you can see it also has an opening and a closing tag. So the head element is used to give us some information about the web page. For example, the title element here is used to specify the title of the web page. Normally, this title that you type here is going to appear on the tab of your browser. So on the tab of your browser, if you see Gmail, then that Gmail has actually been achieved by the title element. Then we also have some other tags like the meta tag that is used to give us, for example, the format in which this particular web page is going to be converted to as it's being sent on the internet. The other important tag is the body tag. The body tag is now what you see on your web page. That white part that you see on your web page is what we call the body part. So most of the tags are gonna go inside the body tag, like the heading tags, the paragraph tags, like this example that we're having here. All of them are going to be they're going to be going inside the body. So we don't forget this, that this is the basic structure of a HTML document, meaning that every web page must have it. Okay, so these are just the explanations that I've already given. We are looking at each one of them at a go. So as I mentioned, doc type used to specifies the version of HTML that the page is using. HTML5, if it's HTML5, then the doc type is going to be looking like that. Okay, then you have the root element. The root element is the HTML element. It encloses all other elements. It represents the root of an HTML document. Normally, this element can have the language attribute. This attribute, for example, can have the value en to specify that it's using English. So that's one of the attributes that can go there. So as you can see here, we actually have the attribute en, language, then the value is en. Don't forget that we have an opening and a closing HTML tag. Then we have the head element. The head element provides information about the document. So as I said, like the title, the meta, that's giving us more information about the web page. So that's the purpose of the head element. Then you have the title element. The title element specifies the page title visible in the browser's title bar. Metadata is used to specify the character encoding for the HTML. In this example, it's using what you call Unicode character encoding. So this one, the meta, then chasset UTF-8. So we have several other character encoding mechanisms. Then you have the body. The body element encloses the page contents, the contents of the page. That is everything that is visible in your browser window. Everything that is visible in your browser window. So of course your browser window will have the will have the body and it will have the tab. The tab is here. So whatever goes on the tab is the title. This one, title. Whatever is in the body here is what you're seeing here. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the common elements. We begin by looking at the text elements. We have two categories of text elements, what we call block elements and inline elements. Block elements are used for marking up large blocks of content, such as headings and paragraphs. So we've already seen block elements, paragraphs and headings. On the other hand, inline elements are used for individual words or phrases. Individual words or phrases. One example that we've just looked at for example, for inline elements include, for example, EM for emphasis. So it's just used to mark up individual words or phrases that you want to pop out. That is what you call inline elements. Okay, so let's have a look at block elements. As we've said, block elements are used to mark up large parts of the document. Examples include headings. Headings, we have 6 different levels of headings, from H1, H2, H3, all the way to H6. So H1 is the top level heading, and it's the biggest among them all in terms of the size. Normally it's used to provide the page title. As you go lower, then the size, the font size reduces, and you can use this, for example, for titles, for subsections or subtitles. Headings, normally it is recommended that they appear in the correct order. So for example, you don't want to have H3 before a H1. And this is important also because of accessibility. Because, for example, the screen readers are going to be reading them using different tones. So that's one thing. Another thing you should remember is that headings cannot be nested. So you should not nest headings. It doesn't even make sense. Then screen readers allow users to navigate by headings. So as I just mentioned, and that's why it's important that they appear in the correct order. They appear in the correct order. So this is an example of a heading. Paragraphs, another block element, paragraphs. So the P element defines a paragraph. The browser displays the paragraph, adds a new line before the paragraph. Remember, it's before, not after, before. Adds a new line before the paragraph. So that's why the paragraph will always begin from a new line. Again, just like headings, paragraphs should not be nested. They should not be nested inside other paragraphs. Okay, then another common block element is the pre-element. The pre-element defines pre-formatted text. It preserves both spaces and line breaks. So we are going to look at it during the practical so that you can be able to understand it better. Okay. Then we have block quote. It's another block element, block quote, used to define a section quoted from another source. So when you want to do referencing, you use the block quote. The block quote must contain other elements. The site attribute is used to indicate the source of the quote. So in this particular example, we have the block. We have the block quote opening tag and the closing tag. Then we have the attribute site, site and the content. So we've nested the paragraph, this paragraph, inside the block quote because we want to say that whatever we are saying here, we got it from this website. So really, the block quote element is used for citing. Okay, so let's have a look at some inline elements. Inline elements used to mark up small portions of the text. Inline elements must always be nested inside a block level element. In this example, you can see we have the paragraph and we've nested an inline element strong. So strong is used to bolden. So the content here, page, is going to be bold. We've also nested M, that it will italicize this content, a basic HTML document. So this will be italicized. So remember that you cannot just use inline elements anywhere. You should nest them inside block elements. Okay. Another one that you can use for citing is the HTML quotation Q element. So in this example, we have this. So this is a HTML page. So the Q element defines a short quotation. So the browser will insert quotation marks around the element. Quotation marks. So that means that this will, on the browser, this will look as this. This is a HTML page, like that. Abbreviation. So we have a HTML element called ABBR for abbreviation, used to define an abbreviation or an acronym. So for example, in your paragraph, you've used the acronym HTML. So you want to say HTML stands for HyperText Markup Language. So really, you can enclose HTML inside the abbreviation element in order to provide the full text. So it has the title attribute, as you can see here, and this is the full text of that particular abbreviation. So you use it to provide abbreviations. And then you have the physical style tags. This tag specifically is used to specify the color, the font face, and the size of the text. So this is one of the old the font tag, one of the old tags that we used to use earlier when CSS was not very mature. So we used to use this to specify the font face, for example, Times New Roman. The size attribute, we use it to specify the font size, and the color attribute to specify the color of the text. So normally it will have the opening tag and the closing tag, and the content now will acquire this particular formatting. Now these tags have been deprecated. It will still work in some browsers, but they are no longer in use, and they should not be used in our pages. Why? Because this is supposed to be done by CSS and not in HTML. Okay, let's look at how you can create lists in your web pages. This is one of the things that you must use in your web page. Reason being, you will have menus, and menus, including the top menu, they are created using lists, as you're going to learn later. So HTML provides a number of different ways you can structure a list of items. The example on the next slide is what we call an ordered list. So we have different types of lists that HTML provides. There are three types of lists. Three types of HTML lists. So number one, we have unordered. Then number 2 we have ordered. Then number 3 we have definition. Definition lists. DD. Definition lists. Okay, so unordered uses bullets. Uses bullets to specify lists. Ordered uses numbers, like A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, or the Roman numbers, etc. Definition lists, we are going to have a look at it. But those are the 3 types of lists. Okay, so this is an ordered list. How to do an ordered list? You use the UL element. So UL for unordered list. Then you have to close it. You have to close it. You have to close the list like that. Then after that, inside you use elements that are called list elements. LI list items. I'm sorry, list items. So list items. So triangle, quadrilateral, pentagon, hexagon. All of them are gonna be lists. So they are gonna be listed either using circles or using rectangles or something, just like in Word, those bullets, or using an arrow. So you can be able to specify which type you want, whether you want a circle or a rectangle. You can be able to specify using a particular attribute in the UL tag. Now, one thing you see here is uh, what we call I'm forgetting. Is it embedding? Mm, I'm forgetting, but really, anytime you nest, for example, you can see that whatever has been nested begins from here. So you can see that we've pushed this inside. We've pushed this inside. So anytime you're typing your HTML code, always make sure you do this. It's one of the agreed ways of doing things in order to make your HTML code readable. So anytime you're nesting, we've nested the LI elements inside the UL elements. You make sure you push them in. Most of the time we use a tab. We use a tab to push them in. So that makes your code neat and easy to read. So the other type of list is this one. It's called the definition list. Definition list can be used to structure content such as glossaries. So normally it has 3 tags. The first one is DL for it's used to tags define the start and an end of the list. So you can see here we have DL and end DL like that. Then you have DT for definition term. So the definition term specifies the definition term. Okay. Then we have DD, which is used to specify the actual definition. So let's see how it has been used here. The example. So for example, triangle enclosed inside the DT. Then we want to define the triangle as a 3-sided shape. So we enclose it inside DD. So that is how we use the definition list. Okay. I'm just wondering how come they didn't give. Okay, so I didn't read this, but for numbered lists, instead of UL, we use OL for ordered lists. So here, if we wanted this to be a numbered list, here we use O instead of U. OL. So O for ordered lists. Okay. So let's look at some character entities. What is a character entity? Character entities, they are used to insert some special symbols into the HTML document. Why? Because some of the characters have specific meaning in HTML. For example, we've seen the angle brackets are used to create the tags, the opening and the closing tag of the empty tags. Now, what if we want to print the greater than symbol on our page, we want to print it, then how can we do it? We do it using the character entity ampersand GT semicolon. So if you put this within your paragraph, for example, then your 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 browser is going to display the greater than symbol. Now, character entity values for many symbols. We have many character entity values for many symbols, including ampersand, pound, copyright, euro symbol, etc. So I'm giving you this as a reading assignment. Go to the website w3c.org. w3schools.com. Go to this website and find out other HTML character entities, and expect these questions both in the CAT and in the exam. So valid documents. So what do we want to say here? Web browsers will accept invalid web pages and do their best to render the HTML code by making best guess on the web developer's intention. Now, I'm sure you've done introduction to programming and you learned about the IDEs and those particular languages. For example, if you learn C, you learn that if you make a syntax error, then your code cannot be executed. Your code cannot be executed until you sort it out. That's different with HTML and CSS. With HTML and CSS, if you make a mistake in the syntax, really your web browser will try and guess what you mean and be able to do what it can, but it can't stop your entire web browser from rendering your web page. It cannot stop it from doing so. So I hope you get the difference. That here you can't do mistakes, and your browser will still be able to try and guess something out. So we don't have errors that are going to really frustrate you here. It's either it's going to show it or show it in a wrong way or not show it at all. So those are the three options. Okay, so there are specific rules for HTML. In an HTML document, if an HTML document follows all the rules set by the W3C, it is described as being valid. Now, most of the time, when we are done doing a web page or a website, we check if the web page is valid using the W3C validation service that is hosted on this URL, validator.w3.org. So you should always do that. For the website project that I'm giving you, you should be able to print a report for me from this particular validator so that I can see whether you've been able to follow all the rules. And some of these rules, by the way, are the nesting. We looked at the nesting. You can do wrong nesting. So if you upload your website on this particular site, validator.w3.org, it should now be able to tell you that, hey, here you've done the wrong nesting. So then you'll be able to correct it. So really, the validator is simply used to help you in testing and correcting any mistakes that you might have done. So why validate? When you validate, you increase the accessibility of your page. You also support standard compliant browsers, meaning that if a browser follows the W3 standards, then your website or web page is going to be rendered correctly. And when you validate, you also ensure that your website can be able to be rendered in as many different devices as possible. So those are the main reasons as to why we should validate. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of topic number 2. So we pick up from here next week. This week we're not going to have any practicals. Any question? Any question before we part? Uh-huh. Yes? I didn't get you. Please come up again. Okay, yes. I'll share with you the notes. I'll upload them. I'll upload them. Thank you. Any other question? Okay, thank you. So please get some time, watch some video tutorials on YouTube. You can also visit, I recommend the W3 Schools website for learning HTML and CSS. These are things that you can learn for fun and do for fun. In fact, these are things that should be taught in class 5, not in university. So I just hope that uh, you will be able to find it interesting and fun to learn and be able to pass very well in this particular unit. So all the best. Have a great week ahead. Let's meet again, same time, same place next week. Bye bye for now.